The email came at 6:17 a.m., glowing on the cracked screen of Ethan Miller's phone like a verdict already decided. He stood on the edge of the subway platform in downtown Chicago, suit jacket folded over his arm, tie loosened, heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. This was supposed to be the morning that changed his life forever. One message, one confirmation, one step into the dream he had chased since college. And then, just as the train roared into the station, he saw her collapse near the stairs, a stranger falling into the rush of bodies that didn't stop. In that single moment, Ethan made a choice that cost him everything he thought he wanted. Before the story continues, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that doing the right thing still matters in this world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may be hurting right now. Ethan had grown up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where people still waved at strangers and Sundays meant church, family dinners, and quiet streets. His parents, Daniel and Ruth Miller, were not wealthy, but they were steady and kind. His father worked at a hardware store for 30 years. His mother volunteered at the local food pantry. From them, Ethan learned that character mattered more than comfort, that helping someone was never wasted time. But as he grew older and moved to the city, those lessons began to feel heavy, almost impractical, in a world that rewarded speed, ambition, and self-interest. For 4 years, Ethan had been chasing one goal: a junior analyst position at Whitmore & Klein, one of the most prestigious financial firms in the United States. He had studied nights, skipped vacations, worked unpaid internships, and endured rejection after rejection. When he finally landed the final interview, he felt as if his entire life had been funneled into that one morning. The interview was scheduled for 8 a.m. sharp. The email on his phone was the confirmation he had been waiting for, the last instruction before walking into the glass tower that symbolized success. Then the stranger fell. She was older, maybe in her late 60s, with gray hair pulled into a loose bun and a worn coat that looked too thin for the cold. People stepped around her, annoyed, distracted, late for their own lives. Ethan hesitated. Every second mattered. He glanced at the clock, at the train doors, at the phone in his hand. His heart raced as logic and conscience collided. He told himself someone else would help. Someone always did, but no one stopped. Ethan moved before he could think. He knelt beside her, setting his jacket on the grimy floor, helping her sit up. Her hands trembled, her breathing shallow. She looked at him with eyes filled not just with pain, but with fear and embarrassment, as if she were sorry for being an inconvenience. Ethan flagged down a station worker, stayed with her until paramedics arrived, and rode with them to the hospital because she had no one else to call. By the time he left her safely in a hospital bed, his phone buzzed with missed calls and emails he already knew the meaning of. The interview was missed. The dream job was gone. In the days that followed, reality settled in like a heavy fog. Whitmore & Klein sent a brief, polite rejection, explaining that punctuality was a core value and exceptions could not be made. Ethan stared at the message for a long time, feeling something inside him crack. He replayed the morning over and over, wondering if he could have done something differently, if he had been foolish, if kindness was a luxury he could no longer afford. Rent was due. Student loans waited patiently but relentlessly. His parents called, proud of him for helping someone, but their voices carried worry they tried to hide. Ethan took a temporary job at a grocery store to get by. He stocked shelves at night, his suit now hanging unused in his closet like a reminder of failure. Every time he passed the financial district, the glass buildings reflected a version of himself he no longer recognized. He felt invisible, left behind, angry at the world, at himself. Yet, late at night, when exhaustion softened his thoughts, he remembered the woman's face in the subway, the relief in her eyes when he stayed. That memory was the only thing that brought him a strange, quiet peace. Weeks passed, winter deepened. One evening, after a long shift, Ethan checked his mailbox and found an envelope thicker than usual. It had no return address, only his name written neatly on the front. Inside was a handwritten letter, and a small card with a hospital logo. The letter was from the stranger he had helped. Her name was Margaret Whitmore. As Ethan read, his hands began to shake. Margaret wrote about how she had fainted due to complications from a heart condition she had kept private. She wrote about waking up in the hospital and being told that a young man had stayed with her, missed something important, and asked for nothing in return. She wrote about gratitude, about faith, about how kindness had become rare in her world. At the end of the letter, she mentioned something that made Ethan's breath catch. She was the co-founder of Whitmore & Klein. The revelation hit him like a wave. Margaret Whitmore was not just any stranger. She was one of the most powerful women in the industry that had just rejected him. Ethan sat on the floor of his apartment, letter in his lap, stunned by the irony. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Part of him felt hope stir for the first time in weeks. Another part felt afraid to trust it. Days later, Ethan received another message, this time an invitation. Margaret asked him to visit her office, not for an interview, but for tea. When Ethan walked into the building again, it felt different, less intimidating, more human. Margaret was smaller than he remembered, but her presence was strong, her eyes sharp and warm. She spoke about values, about leadership, about how companies often preached integrity but rarely recognized it when it mattered most. She told him that missing the interview had revealed more about his character than any resume ever could. Margaret did not offer him the same position he had lost. Instead, she offered him something unexpected, a role in a new foundation the firm was launching, focused on ethical finance, community investment, and mentoring young professionals from underserved backgrounds. It was not the job Ethan had imagined, but it was something deeper, something aligned with who he truly was. Ethan accepted not because of the title or the salary, but because for the first time, his work felt like an extension of his values rather than a betrayal of them. His parents cried when he told them. The grocery store manager hugged him goodbye. Slowly, Ethan's life began to rebuild, not around ambition alone, but around purpose. Years passed. Ethan grew into his role, then beyond it. He traveled across the country speaking to students, working with communities, shaping policies that balanced profit with compassion. Margaret became a mentor, then a friend. When she eventually passed away, she left him one final letter, reminding him that success measured only by personal gain was empty, and that the world changed not through grand gestures, but through quiet choices made when no one was watching. Near the end of his story, Ethan often returned in his mind to that subway platform, to the moment when everything he thought he wanted was at stake. He realized that losing his dream job had never been the tragedy. The real tragedy would have been stepping over someone in need and carrying that emptiness forever. If this story is touching your heart right now, if it's reminding you of a moment when you chose kindness or wished you had, please take a second to like this video. Share it and engage with it. Your interaction helps spread messages like this further than you may realize. And before the story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes what this story made you feel. Or share a moment when kindness changed your life. Your words might inspire someone else who is struggling right now. Ethan Miller never became the man he once imagined at 22, racing toward success at any cost. He became something better. He became proof that doing the right thing can feel like loss before it feels like destiny, and that sometimes the path we are meant to walk only reveals itself after everything familiar falls away. In a world that often rewards indifference, his story stands as a quiet reminder that compassion still has the power to reshape lives, careers, and futures in ways no dream job ever could.